when people are calling out line distributions, I go and I look and I'm like, it's really not that bad, and I've seen worse. But for this example, I mean, it's pretty bad. J-Hope is my bias, but don't tell anyone. Hi, welcome. My name is Angelina, and my ban on speaking about BTS has temporarily been lifted. So me and my J-Hope Mattel doll can get back to business. But today is super exciting because we're going to be discussing BTS's most recent comeback with Dynamite. I'll be sharing my thoughts as well as giving my opinions on your thoughts, like the most common things that I have been reading about this song, such as people saying that there's too much auto-tune, that it's a Boy With Love 2.0, and even the backlash that Big Hit has been receiving for, quote-unquote neglecting some of the members. So I thought we could look into that as well. And among other things, we're going to talk about why it's familiar, why it's not familiar, and honestly, everything in between. But before we get into this video, make sure you like and comment on this video, and also subscribe because I'm trying to reach 150,000 subscribers. So let's start off with the music video. So it starts out with all of the members with a pastel type background that is honestly quite reminiscent of some scenes with Boy With Love. And quite frankly, a lot of the aesthetic of both music videos are very familiar. So in that sense, I feel like Dynamite is kind of like the funkier cousin, if that makes sense, who went a lot harder with the retro vibes, which we're going to talk about. There are very heavy 70s inspirations here, though I've seen some people describe it as like 80s inspired. I don't know. I was born in 2012, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask about this, but I could definitely see kind of a mix, but more leaning towards 70s inspired for sure. So in that sense, I think there is that sense of familiarity because I think Boy With Love also had some retro vibes, but it didn't go as retro. And I know what people are going to tell me, BTS have such diverse songs, they never make like two similar comebacks in a row. And they don't. I agree with that 100%. I mean, there was two songs between Boy With Love and Dynamite, and those two songs obviously offered very different vibes. So the fact that Dynamite is so similar to Boy With Love, in my opinion, is not a bad thing at all because I think it's done on purpose, and I think there are meant to be parallels. But I loved Boy With Love. It was one of my top songs of the year that year. I have no concept of time. I don't remember. It was in 2019, was it? So yeah, because I loved that song so much, I personally don't think it's an insult to make reference to it. And there's also the fact that I think BTS did this on purpose. So I don't think it's kind of a coincidence that there are so many similarities or parallels, shall we say. Because if we look at the aesthetics of both music videos, there's definitely a lot of parallels. I mean, Suga even seems to really like this angle. So it's almost like a continuation of Boy With Love. And I even think there are some parallels within some of the lyrics, notably the killing parts in both of the songs. So in Boy With Love, they say, "You make me high so fast." And then in Dynamite, they say, "I'm in the stars tonight." So I think they just kind of go hand in hand on purpose. And that's the thing, when we say a song is a 2.0 or 3.0 of something, we often think of it as something super negative. But it's really rare that I think that's the case. But I would love to know what you think. Do you think the sound and the aesthetic are on a similar wavelength, or do you think that they evoke very, very different things? But of course, there are also so many differences between both of the songs. So I want to take my hand. I want to try describing the song. So I recently made a playlist on Spotify called Magical Kpop, and I kind of want to try to make more playlists as well, but I feel like there are certain songs that evoke very, very specific vibes. I would have described Boy With Love as this feeling of longing, as a dreamy sound that was also quite soft, while Dynamite kind of hits differently. It's obviously not quite as soft, but we can still see these dreamy elements within it. I mean, it's obviously a lot funkier, a lot livelier, and I would say it goes more into this magical territory. And again, the killing part, "'cause I'm in the stars tonight," just makes me feel a certain way. I think that part of the song is the killing part in my opinion, and it's just so repeatable. Like I just find myself kind of singing it every so often, like throughout the day. And I don't want to reveal too much because I do want you guys to wait to my end of the month review to know whether I would place the song in Song of the Year category or if it should go into YG's Dungeon. But I think given everything I've said already, I think you guys can guess where I would put this song, so let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so I wanted to take a minute to talk about the concept. I love talking about concepts. I think I'm going to make a video specifically on concepts. I would say this definitely falls into the 70s concepts, and I do think that is a concept in and of itself. If you think back to Tiara's Roly Poly, or even more recently, JYP's duet with Sunmi for When We Disco. So though it's not done very often, I still think it's a concept in and of itself. It just evokes the past. It has very strong instrumentals that are otherwise associated with a specific time period. But within this, and keep in mind, I haven't seen any music stages for this. This is just based on teaser pictures and the music video. I would have loved if they would have went much harder with the styling. I feel like the styling is very 70s inspired, but there are still a lot of modern elements, like modern uses of denim. Like, for example, I feel like V is the member who really embodies that 70s vibe so well, from the hair to the outfit. I feel like they should have went hard like that. But yeah, I'd be so interested in seeing, you know, what kind of styling they go for. Because even in the teaser pictures, I thought it was a little bit difficult to kind of discern that it was a retro theme. So I'd be really interested in seeing, you know, stage performances. But I was going to say, I don't know if they will do stage performances because the song is in English. But then I found out the other day that WayV have been promoting like English songs on music shows as well. And I was like, I thought that wasn't allowed. Because if we think about it, Z-Boys and Z-Girls were not allowed to perform on music shows because their songs were in English, which seems a little fishy to me. But let me know why you think sometimes it's allowed and sometimes it's not allowed. Speaking of English songs in K-pop, I just did want to go on a little tangent here because I feel like because it's BTS, a lot of people have preconceived notions of what it should sound like, or, you know, some people I feel like are going harder on some of the critiques when it comes to language. I've seen a lot of people say like they didn't even know it was in English until they heard it a few times, or, you know, one reaction channel who reacted to the song in its entirety and then at the end was like, oh, can you imagine if there was an English version of this song? And it's like, dude, I get canceled for saying 21. How are you still alive? But when men do dumb shit, it's like, oh my god, he's so cute and misguided. But like, I did want to point this out because when I listen to the radio sometimes, like, I don't really understand the lyrics, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like a lot of music, regardless of what language it's in, tends to favor the aesthetic, if that makes sense, the aesthetic of the sound. But even within K-pop songs, you know, there are some things that are pronounced differently to fit, you know, the vibe of the song, and that happens all the time. But I feel like people are picking on it a little bit more because it's BTS. I don't know. I feel like people misinterpret lyrics all the time. Like, it's such a common occurrence, no matter what language the song is in. But because it's BTS, I feel like people are like hyper aware, have this hyper fixation on pronunciation, and it's like, oh, why? I mean, I think we all know why. A lot of people hold a lot of unnecessary pride when it comes to the language they speak, but friendly reminder that it's okay to admit that you're coming from a place of ignorance and to learn from it. You know, an English version of a K-pop song is not necessary in the slightest. You know, if it happens, it happens, but to kind of go out of your way and ask for it and kind of demand it can be quite problematic. And in that same breath, being kind of overly concerned with prescriptive grammar and forcing what you deem as correct onto other people is also problematic. I think it's important to understand that different varieties of English exist, and it's not okay to think that your own accent and your own way of speaking is the only way, because it's absolutely not. But I digress. Let us move on to the neglection accusations towards Big Hit, notably for Jin. I've read that, you know, a lot of people are angry because the line distribution is pretty atrocious, and they feel that Jin and J-Hope got a lot less screen time in comparison to the other members. So I wanted to look into this myself, so welcome to this segment called K-pop investigations, where other people do the investigations and I just look at it. But I mean, this is something that happens in K-pop all the time. There's always like that one member who gets, you know, quote unquote favorite, and I actually have 2 videos about it, one specifically for Everglow and one just a general video about favoritism in K-pop. So if we look at this video by Hexagon, Jungkook got 36.6% of lines, Jimin got 23.2%, V got 14.6%, Jin got 11.1%, RM got 6.9%, J-Hope got 3.8%, and Suga got 3.8% as well. So when it comes to the rap line, I kind of understand why they would be on the lower end of the spectrum, because I feel like logistically, if you're trying to separate, you know, a small rap part within the song between 3 people, I think it kind of makes a little bit of sense. That being said, 3% is pretty bad. But if we're talking about Jin, who has, 11%, I mean, it is quite low if we're comparing it to 36.6%, but it's not that low if we're comparing it to V, who had just a few percent higher. But I don't think a lot of people are really complaining much about V, and I've heard some people say that's because his parts are a little bit more significant. And there are also some people saying that some of Jin's parts were actually cut out of the music video, so I think that adds definitely to the sentiment as well. I don't know. This is not something that I really look into, and I don't want to sound like the biggest fucking K-pop boomer in the world, but here I go. I don't remember this ever being a thing back in the day, like line distributions, screen time distributions. I feel like you really just felt it in your heart if a member was not getting a lot of screen time, if that makes sense. But now we can actually look statistically at this shit. It's pretty interesting. But I would have to agree. Usually when people are calling out line distributions, I go and I look and I'm like, it's really not that bad, and I've seen worse. But for this example, I mean it's pretty bad. And actually, looking at this video by random_K, I mean the screen time distribution is pretty equal. I mean, I'm not seeing huge discrepancies. We don't stand the English language here. But even with pretty equal screen time as seen in that video, I think the sentiment lies more within the fact that Jin really didn't get his own scenes compared to the other members, didn't really get as much time to shine on his own, which obviously has angered a lot of fans. So yeah, that is it for this little segment of K-pop investigations. But now we're gonna talk about Autotune. I feel like that is the biggest thing that people are saying. I asked you guys on my community tab what your thoughts were for this song, and a lot of people were saying there's so much auto-tune. So I actually went into listening to the song knowing that people were complaining about this, and then I noticed it afterwards. But I think had I gone into the song with like a clean slate, not knowing that that was something people were pointing out, I don't think I would have noticed that. Like, here's the thing, the autotune isn't something that ruins the song. Basically what I mean is I feel like there's some type of effects on their voices, but I think it's very necessary to the vibe of the song. So we have this song that is so incredibly 70s inspired, and I just think that the sound of their voices makes a lot of sense to me anyways. It's not something that I'm like, oh shit, it ruins the song, because it doesn't for me. In fact, I think without it, it would have just taken away from this kind of nostalgic, reminiscing 70s dreamy vibe that they were going for. So yeah, that is basically it for this video. Thank you so much if you made it this far, and if you did, you know the drill. Also, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite BTS song of this year was. Did you prefer On? Did you prefer Black Swan? Or did you prefer Dynamite? I'm gonna have to cast my vote on Dynamite. You can also follow me on Instagram and join my channel members by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. These are the lovely individuals who help support my channel every single month. Thank you for all of your support. As for me, I'm gonna get going, so I will see you guys next time. Bye!